Manever I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there, osia dem yopo.
You are most welcome to PENDREAM TV, the only channel that brings you the best and latest updates in politics. If you are new here, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell for more updates. Like and also share to other members to watch as well. You can also leave a comment after watching. Your comments are most important to us. Please do leave a comment. Or send us a voice note through our WhatsApp number, which is 0277-128-777. Thank you. A security analyst has also come out with a powerful analysis on the leaked tape about the AG and Jakpa, saying it's a look of things. The tape is not dotted and it's a clear evidence of how the AG wants things to go, which Jakpa also is disagreeing. And it doesn't matter the length of the tape compared to what the NDC has released during their conference a day before and what the MPP has also saying. He said that does not matter. The length of the tape does not matter compared to the original one. What matters is it has been recorded and the voice is AG's voice. And he also agreed to it that that's his voice. It doesn't matter what comes in or not. That much I do. I would like you to join me listening to what he said into detail. Thank you.
It's been an explosive last few days around this particular case, this ambulance case. And we've been learning a lot on this subject in the last, say, 48 hours indeed. We're going to be trying to uncover the truth tonight here on PM Express. And this is a case that has traveled for 2 years, 5 months. So it's quite interesting that for cases that's traveled this long, it hasn't generated a fair bit of controversy as much as it has since last week, Thursday, when the bombshell was dropped in court by the third accused person in this particular case. And these are the gentlemen who were standing trial. You know, Dr. Kesela Tofosin, he's currently the minority leader, but he's been tried in his capacity as a former deputy finance minister because he signed some letters, the letters of credit, on the subject of the ambulances that came into the country. The government says there were issues with that particular agreement that led to financial loss of the state, for which reason he's been prosecuted. And then we also have Dr. Sylvester Ani Mana, who is a former chief director of the health ministry. He was part of the individuals who have been prosecuted until the Attorney General took the decision to discontinue the charges against him, dropped it, filed a certiorari, and so far he's not in the box as far as the individuals are concerned who are currently being prosecuted, right? So he's not there. And that is why you've heard the names of Kesela Tofosin, and you've also heard the case of Richard Jakpa, who is a businessman. And that is the name that has dominated the airwaves in the last few days, since Thursday, when the case was in court, because he dropped a bombshell that suggested that the Attorney General was attempting to coerce him to fabricate testimony, evidence, really, against Dr. Kesela Tofosin, because apparently Kesela Tofosin was the Attorney General's target, and that has set in motion a storm indeed that has been brewing, and it came to a head today. That is why we're having this conversation. We're trying to try and unpack what the truth really is from what we know. There have been some contradictions, but a few things we've also learned that we'll put out as far as what we know is concerned. So please stay with me as we go through this. So how much is involved? When the AG says there's financial loss here, how much is involved? We're talking about some 2.37 million euros there. So that's a lot of money. For a poor country like us, it's a lot of money. But questions have been raised that one of the accused persons in the case, the Big C, the company at the heart of all this, offered to pay up around 2 million euros. And this was rejected by the Attorney General. And the questions are being asked, but why exactly? Are we interested in recovering part of this money? Is the interest only in jailing the individuals? That's a question. And we'll try and interrogate that a bit more today in the context of everything that we now know, because the secret recording that the NDC claimed they had on the back of the testimony in court last week has now been aired, and it is fascinating. It's indeed explosive, the kind of things that we heard the Attorney General and Jakpa discuss on that particular secret recording on the phone It is fascinating indeed, and we'll get into that. But also, we know that the ambulances that, according to the current government, did not meet the requirement, were numbered around 30 of them, which really is in controversy. But what did Jakpa really say in court? I mean, if you listen to the press conference by the NDC today, the chairman of the National Democratic Congress was clear that in court, the Attorney General was there himself last week, and he had made a comment whilst this trial was happening, and Jakpa was in the door giving evidence and was being cross-examined by lawyers for case letter forcing, that the Attorney General had suggested that why is he not defending himself, but giving evidence that rather appears to be defending case letter forcing. And that may have led to him exploding and making these allegations against the AG, and that the AG has asked for his help at odd hours in meetings, and also had alleged that the AG's claim that he is defending Ato forcing is false. And really, this is what set in motion this chain of events that has led to this storm that has been brewing over the last few days. And we've seen the AG also issue some responses. And we'll be interrogating these. Again, in the light of on the wake of the evidence that we've seen today, the AG has said in the statement that was issued that no one from the AG's office has talked to Mr. Jakpa asking for any evidence. And we'll see that the evidence may suggest otherwise when we look into it. The AG didn't also ask Mr. Jakpa to lie. Again, I'll play for you what we learned from the AG's own conversation with Jakpa that was recorded. Richard Jakpa also wrote letters asking for asking the AG to come to the table to plea bargain. Ato forcing also tried to stop the prosecution, and there's a video proving it. The MPP also did a press conference today. We did not see any evidence from them in terms of the suggestion that the Attorney General had put for last week, that he also had a video of the case Ato forcing coming to his house to literally beg for the case to be dropped. Okay, so I know many of you just getting home and wondering, what really happened today? And why are we having the conversation? It's because there have been two press conferences, one by the NDC and one by the MPP. The NDC press conference is very explosive. The NDC press conference, very explosive, because they played that secret tape, a tape that showed the conversation between the Attorney General and Mr. Jakpa. And I've told you who Mr. Jakpa is. Of course, he obviously was a superintendent Big C. He's the head of Big C, the company that is the heart of the purchase of the ambulance and who made the allegation in court. I would play a bit of that for you to hear so you can come to your own conclusion. But if you look at the timelines of what has been said, it's also interesting. Before I even go to the timelines of what has been said from the AG's office, listen to the essential parts of this conversation. Remember, this conversation, and I'll show you WhatsApp messages again that the NDC put out today that showed when that was recorded. And they put the time, as far as this conversation I'm about to play you is concerned, on the 9th of April, 2024. So this is very recent indeed. So what transpired? This is the Attorney General in conversation with the third accused, the man he is prosecuting in court, in a conversation that was secretly recorded. Watch.
That time, around this time, or the ambulances had already arrived in Ghana. You are not privy to this one, I'm telling you.
In my view, if we agree to this theory, it's so simple, the theory of the case.
Not agree to the way you want to go, the way you want to go about it.
So you let's agree. Let's describe it that way. Let's describe it that way. Do you want to go about it?
Okay,
if
fine.
Agree this way, it makes it simple.
Yes, it will make
it doesn't involve any difficulty for you.
Yes, I agree. I understand your point. That it doesn't.
When you say there's no advancement, yes. When you say there's no advancement, ordinarily meaning in Ghana that you don't pay until you get your goods. Now the contract here, even the clear terms, unless maybe you guys did not draft the contract, it says everything on site of goods shall be established upon the signing of the contract for every future.
No, the contract was drafted by government. It was done by government.
Oh, yes.
And it was an AG department perused the contract and approved the contract for government.
It is not a problem whether they approve it. Every contract is actually approved before later when they are implementing it, then problems.
You see, what the difficulty I have with your position is that, you see, frankly speaking, fine, as you are saying, if I agree to your position, how you want to go about it and how you want me to go about my answering questions and things. If I go by that way, frankly speaking, I'll be dishonest, because I know that is not how it's supposed to be. And I'll be dishonest, and I'll be dishonest in such a way that I'll be assisting for someone I know is completely innocent about this. For example, Atu Forsen, to be jailed because I knew something was wrong, was not the way, and I decided to keep quiet and to answer the question in a way that will make your case better for you to jail him. I'll be battling with my conscience. That is the problem I'm having. Anytime you bring up this, that is my problem I'm having. Because me, for example, I am in this case because I'm innocent and I'm going through ordeal. So I'm looking at another person also going to go through ordeal and through me, because I know the truth and I decide not to say it because I want to help the AG make his case. And I ask myself, what is my interest in it?
I'm not asking you to really help me. I'm just going by the top. Anyway, so that's fine. So this one was even just by the way.
I hope you get my difficulty.
It's on the phone. I don't even know that.
Oh no. No, don't worry about that one. My issue I'm talking about. Oh no, you and I will be meeting. You'll be meeting me at my cousin's place. And you've been bringing this issue up several times. And I keep telling you that I can't do that because it doesn't sit well with me.
Look at the terms of contract. The terms of contract are simple. And this on sites have established upon the side of the contract for every term with us.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Yeah.
It's for every. So when you see that hand for every 50 ambulance, means that it's not only the 50.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
For every. It means that it is not only 50.
All right.
Mean that there are a lot of 50s that will be following. So that is what I was trying to explain to you. So frankly speaking, the LC that was established was as a security for the supplier to invest his own.
So this is a security recorded conversation. And you see that the Attorney General admitting that he made the call. He reached out to him. And in fact, if you listen to the fuller recording that was released today, 60 minutes, towards the end, Attorney General says in there that he plays the call. And there's a reason why he did so. He did so because he was traveling and he wanted Jakpa to assist him, tell the court, give the court a story that would then compel the court to adjourn the case. In fact, he then suggested to Jakpa to put in an excuse duty that he was not well, that he was sick. The doctor's excuse duty to say that he wasn't well, that then will compel the judge to adjourn the case because he, Dr. Vedame, was traveling and would not be in town at the time when the case is next called. And Jakpa was making the point that he can't do that because this same judge in question had already issued a bench run for him before, and he didn't want to do that. And so we established that indeed he plays the call, and he plays the call for a reason. The reason he told us in this particular tape was that I wanted this case adjourned. Can you help me? Can you put in a request to say you are not well, you're sick? Let the doctor write that for you and let the court adjourn that. There have been questions that have been raised about that particular claim, but we'll come to that. But if you listen to what we just played there, and then you come to the claim that the Attorney General's office has made over the period, one of the substantive points they've made, one is that the AG met Jakpa only once at the residence of a Supreme Court judge. And we'll put this whole Supreme Court judge conversation in its proper context for a second, right? And you hear that tape. So far, the only evidence that we've had is this tape, right? And that tape is a phone call initiated by the Attorney General. So there's no reference to any Supreme Court judge as far as his involvement in arranging this phone call is concerned. It is a phone call that the Attorney General made to Mr. Jakpa. So we'll come to that. But then you also see the point about he meets him once, right? And the Attorney General Department had made the point, we'll come to that, where in the statement they make the point that there has been no contact. But is that really the case? This establishes that there has been contact. And then we've also seen that as the timelines have changed, that at the time the incident happened, Mr. Jakpa did not have a lawyer. The NDC say today, and they are very emphatic, that this call was made on the 9th of April. 9th of April, Jakpa was represented. It was a represented individual because he was represented by Tadio Sori in the case before the Supreme Court. So a few discrepancies are thrown up once you listen to this tape. A few other things come up that we learn from the tape. And this is against the backdrop of all the reactions we've heard to the tape that was last week promised that nobody had had before. But we've had reactions from the camp of the governing New Patriotic Party. One of the things they said was that this was all part, if indeed we had it, now we've had it, it was all part of what they call the grand scheme to entrap the Attorney General and ambush him, that the Attorney General was ambushed, right? And that he had really nothing to do with this. He didn't initiate this conversation. And if you really look at what entrapment means, it's very clear what it means. The individual must be in a position where he's forced to say or do something to incriminate himself that he would otherwise not do. If you listen to that conversation that the Attorney General initiated, clearly it isn't an entrapment. And I'm referencing this recording because it is the evidence we have so far. It hasn't been contradicted by way of evidence. And so we are working with that. The NDC promised it and they put it out. And then you come to the second point about ambush, that the Attorney General was ambushed. Again, if you have to ambush somebody, it has to be sudden, it has to be surprising that he didn't know, and then you spring the attack on him. But if he initiated the call, he could not have been ambushed. It's as simple as that. But a few other things we learn. And there's been a constant reference to this Supreme Court judge. There's no evidence of alleged, and this is a point that we learned here. There's no evidence of the alleged Supreme Court judge's involvement in the supposed entrapment of the AG. Again, relying on that evidence we've heard, right? The call that we heard, it's a call, it's a call that was placed by the Attorney General to Jakpa. There is nowhere in that conversation that we had that there was a conference call in which, at the heart of it, mediating this particular conversation, was a Supreme Court judge. It was between the two individuals, a call that was initiated with the Attorney General needing assistance. Two things, really. He was asking him to go and make pronouncements in court and admit to things that Mr. Jakpa believed would incriminate case lateral forcing, and he thought that was wrong. Because the Attorney General, as you heard him say there, that just agreed to this theory and to make things simple. He said no. But this is the Attorney General's own initiative. So it doesn't provide any clue, any evidence really to support this claim that you've heard on social media, mainly from the governing New Patriotic Party, that a Supreme Court judge was part of an entrapment or an ambush. There's absolutely no evidence that he was even involved in this particular call that we see. And then that we also learned today that is the AG that initiated this particular contact we're talking about, this call, and no one else, because he needed help. And he explained what that help is. And that needs to be placed in its proper context based on what we've learned. If we've had any other evidence, we would have referenced it. But so far, that is the only evidence at stake. Now we also know that as far as Jakpa is concerned, he requested for a meeting in 2022. And I'll show you the WhatsApp messages that again was put out today by the NDC, right? And again, the AG in the WhatsApp message I'll show you makes a very important point about a brother. He actually offered to arrange the meeting through Jakpa's brother, right? And I'll tell you who he meant when he said Jakpa's brother pretty shortly. But first, let's look at the WhatsApp messages. These are the WhatsApp messages here. The first one is 16th of February, 2022. And that is Jakpa requesting for a meeting with the AG. And it says here, requesting for a time and venue at your convenience to meet you for a private conversation, please. I'm most grateful for that kind gesture from you. Hope to hear favorably from you, sir. Then you hear the Attorney General come in and say, I will arrange through your brother. That's what you see here. I will arrange through your brother. Thanks. Now, the brother there the Attorney General was referencing this Supreme Court judge, because we've come to learn from our sources that Attorney General knew that Jakpa is a direct cousin to the Supreme Court, and that when he says, Attorney General says that I will arrange through, he was looking for a venue to host this conversation between himself and Jakpa. And he knew that the Supreme Court judge's home is where the family will meet for a conversation, because the Supreme Court judge was a very prominent member of the family, and Jakpa is a direct cousin. He goes there to eat, and that's where he spends his time. There's a time even when his child's naming ceremony happened in the Supreme Court judge's previous home. So this is somebody who is family. And so when he requested for a meeting with the Supreme Court, with the Attorney General, the Attorney General said, I will arrange that. I will arrange that through your brother. And your brother there, he was referencing the Supreme Court judge, because he knew that that's a place that Jakpa would naturally go, because the Supreme Court judge is his family, he's his direct cousin. And that is why he made that point. And then it's become a bit more apparent when you read the MPP's own statement today that was put before us at the press conference, because they also tell us, give us a certain background, that the Attorney General is also a close friend of the Supreme Court judge. And it dates back to when, long before he became Attorney General, and long before the Supreme Court judge became a Supreme Court judge. And they had a personal relationship, and presumably he would have known the home and would have also been in a position to know that Jakpa is directly related to him, and that's a place that he will feel comfortable to meet him at, because Jakpa had requested. That is the only reason why this conversation about the Supreme Court judge indeed happened. And again, there's no evidence to suggest that when and if that meeting took place, right, the Supreme Court judge played an active role in a conversation that may have ensued. Nobody knows that for a fact. But we know that Jakpa is a direct cousin. He himself mentions it in the tape that I played. And so that's a place that he could go and sit, drink, eat, because that's family. That's where the family would have met when they are in Accra from the Upper West region. And so that is a very important context to clarify as we learn a bit more from these WhatsApp messages. But another thing that is important to note, that the call lasted 26 minutes. And I'll come to the MPP's own case today at the press conference, right? And that tells his own story. And that these conversations have been happening for a while, right? Between the two of them, the Attorney General and Jakpa, the man that he was prosecuting, right? And this 26 minutes, please note it, I'll come to that. And another thing that we saw that was a contradiction, was important, is that AG did in fact approach the third accused. And I make that point also because it contradicts a paragraph in point 2 of the Attorney General's statement last week, right? In which they said, neither the Attorney General, right, nor any officer from the Office of the Attorney General has approached any of the accused persons with a view to obtaining evidence from them. But if you listen to that secret recording again, shows that in fact, this is not factual, is not true. That the Attorney General had initiated and he wanted some evidence from him. Not only that, he also wanted help for the case to be adjourned from him. So that, again, is a contradiction that you see in that particular statement that was issued last week, and we've seen that today. The evidence also doesn't support that. But there are a few things. Of course, the rules governing this, when my panelists join me, we'll talk about that. Now, there are a few additional things that the NDC have been saying today. Why the dismissal of the AG, prosecution of the AG is what they wanted. They are asking for that, commencement of investigations and disbarment of the AG, whether that will happen or not. That's something that they've asked for today. Another thing also that the MPP had been saying, and I think this is important, because the MPP says today, and this is their own press conference, that the tape is doctored. They say the tape is doctored. But why are they saying that? I showed you that WhatsApp message. That showed that this conversation that apparently was recorded lasted for 26 minutes. But the tape that has been released is 16 minutes. So 10 minutes of that is missing. And then the MPP says, where is that? Where is the 10 minutes? And that's the point that they pointed to say, this must certainly have been doctored. What happened in those 10 minutes that NDC is not telling us? And why are they not letting us hear it? Very fundamental, legitimate question by the MPP at the press conference addressed by their Director of Legal, Frank Davis. And again, the WhatsApp messages also show us, and MPP references this, that Jakpa also, in 2022, initiated contact with the AG, also wanting a conversation. But as I've pointed out, it's the AG who recommended the venue, and he recommended the venue to be the brother's house. So when you've heard the issue about how the Supreme Court judge may have actually been the very active, arranging the meetings, the evidence that we've seen so far does not support that particular narrative, right? It doesn't. And then we see that the AG, again, this is still the MPP's own position. AG never requested the witness to falsify, fabricate, or conduct any evidence or testify in the prosecution's favor. Again, what we've heard appeared to tell us a different story. And if the calls for investigations are heeded, we can get to the bottom of this a bit more. But there's a lot more to get through for you tonight. We're going to speak to a security analyst who also has a very intimate knowledge of Jakpa, because Jakpa is also relative. And he brings a very interesting perspective to this. He'll join us. Adam Bonah, you know him, security analyst, will join us. Sam, just to unpack this a bit more, help you make sense of what has been unfolding over the last few days. Stay with me. Join me for this. Mr. Bonah, let's start with the secretive. You listen to it, right? The NDC says it's doctored. This is your field. I remember the first time I spoke to you, we actually talking about how you can secretly record somebody and how you can detect the bug. Now NPP says this is doctor. What do you say?
Good evening to Samson and viewers. No, it's not doctored. Absolutely not doctored. Anyone who understands, how bagging is done or how recording is done, and this, not even a third-party device was used. It was a direct recording. When I say direct recording, you can see, there are no noise. You have very minimal noise, just like a normal telephone conversation. It means that it was, P2P recording, not where you call me and I set up maybe another recorder somewhere, put it on loudspeaker, and then I'm using the third-party device to record. This is a direct, call it P2P recording, and so it's not doctored. And if you listen to the sequencing, if you gauge the sequencing, you can see Jakpa Richard's, diction, his tonation, it was constant, very constant. He sustained it. If you looked at the pitch, also he sustained that one as well. And then even with the AG, if you look at it, he spoke as if it was, under his bed or somewhere, but also very sustained, something like that. And when you look at it, anyone who understands the way these things are done will tell you that, no, this will not pass for a doctored tape. Even up to the time they said goodbye to one another, this will not pass as a doctored tape. And you can send it to the FBI, you can send it to the CIA, to MI6, MI5, and they will all tell you the same thing I'm telling you. It is not doctored.
The MPP references the WhatsApp message that showed that the conversation lasted for 26 minutes, but the audio that was circulated was 16 minutes. That means that there was a 10 minutes gap that wasn't accounted for. Isn't that an issue when you're looking at it?
That is not an issue. Depending on what time you begin to record. This is a voice over IP. It could be a voice. You can see, depending on how they're recording, depending on the time this was recorded. And so I could be conversing with you, and I remember maybe I haven't hit the record button. And so the moment I record wouldn't mean that the time frame in which we spoke will not be captured. The fact that we spoke for, let's say, an hour, but I recorded you for 15 minutes, it's once I share it, it's going to look as if, there's some missing puzzle there. But like I'm saying, you can only detect that looking at the sequence and also some of these indicators, the elements I've given you, it doesn't look like it's doctored, and you cannot actually even link it to a third-party device recording. The only thing is that, unfortunately, the AG should have known that maybe something like that, because it's direct phone call, you should have seen that you are talking and something is going on. Unfortunately, he couldn't detect it as the AG.
And I invite you to hear also because of your knowledge of Jakpa and what may have happened or may not have happened. And we haven't spoken to Jakpa. I think you are the closest to hearing the Jakpa story, right? Because he's really at the heart of this. In that recording, first of all, your relationship and who is it to you?
Oh, Jakpa is my brother.
Okay.
Jakpa,
we are when you say brother, you know, telling your name references brother.
No, we are. You see where we come from. Yeah. When the old lady died, most of
this Upper West region.
This Upper West from Issa.
Yeah.
Yes, most of you, the media, the whole media fraternity, you joined us to bury the old lady when she died some time back. And so most of you, I saw most of you, going with us from Accra to WA, you spent time in WA before we went together to Isai, you spent time there with your cameras. I saw almost every import, I saw almost all of you there. We are brothers.
Okay.
We are, this is not, you
this
can
is
decide to, say cousin, but we are brothers.
And Attorney General actually uses that same word.
No, so I'm just telling you that, you see, we are brothers.
Okay.
I have an unfettered access to each of them's homes anytime I want.
Okay. So you're talking about Jakpa and also talking about this Supreme Court judge.
Yes, my brother Yoni Kulendi, yes.
Yes, okay. So that, in essence, is the relationship that you have with
that's
Jakpa,
a
but also
relationship,
because all
yes.
of you are brothers.
Yes.
Tell me something. In the secret recording, he says that he's met the Attorney General before in the Supreme Court judge's home. Why would he go to the Supreme Court judge's home?
No, you see...
Because that question has been asked. I mean, why there, of all places?
You see, unfortunately, when this whole thing started breaking, some of us were aware of it. My brother Jakpa, Richard, has not been happy. He feels the family, we haven't been helping. He's had exchange with me a while ago when this thing came up, and we resolved it. And so, obviously, a man like him feels that maybe certain things are not going right and he will need everybody to support him. But to answer your question directly, I have seen something very scandalous that seems to be suggesting that the AG was ambushed. How was the AG ambushed? AG was not ambushed. If anybody at all was ambushed, then it is my brother Yoni Kulendi. Because I will tell you, we have the device. Some people went to prison for a certain, device, intelligence device that was procured through, you remember that incident? Yeah. We have those devices, and there are many devices that you can use to track movement of people, use to track calls and call records and all that. If the national security would want to be truthful, they should check whether the morning before that meeting in my brother's home, Yoni Kulendi's home, whether AG spoke to Richard. They should check. I'm daring them to check and give us the records. I'm sure they are listening. They should check whether he spoke to him. So you see, he spoke to Richard. He ended up at my brother's home.
So that's AG spoke to Richard?
Correct.
Okay.
And Yoni didn't know this conversation, whatever was going on amongst them. Okay. So he ends up in my brother Yoni's home. Okay. And like me, when I'm going there, I won't tell you where he lives, but he lives in, a very nice area, very nice home. Security is tight, but I have unfettered access to the place 24 hours.
Your brother, so...
I eat, I do everything. So when I go, I just have free access. And so AG ends up there. Obviously, arranging wanting to see the Supreme Court judge, even what we have heard. You get there. Then, I think 10 minutes later, Richard arrives.
Because AG had already had a conversation.
Listen, and Richard arrived unannounced. Okay.
And he will do that because this is...
when I'm going to my brother's house, I don't tell him I'm coming. Usually, I don't do that. Sometimes you are around the area, you go in, and sometimes when you get to his entrance, they tell you the old man is not around. Then I call, so maybe I'm sphincters, I'm here. Then it's okay, I'll go and come back or I'll wait. So obviously, he got there unannounced. If it was an arrangement between, what do you call it? If it was an arrangement by the two brothers, when I say the two brothers, my two other brothers, then AG would have come to meet the two brothers there. That is logical, isn't it? Yeah. He would have come and he would meet the two brothers there, already talking about certain things. But it is rather Richard meeting AG in his big brother's home. So when you hear ambush, it's as if somebody doesn't understand what ambush is. And so is now trying to throw, Justice Kulendi, on the real lines. You don't say under the bus, on the real lines. And it's unfortunate because at the end of the day, you made that arrangement, went there, and you had conversations with Richard.
Prior to that.
And when you got there, 5-10 minutes time, Richard arrives. Okay. Do you expect that as Richard arrived, Yoni Kulendi should say, no, don't let him in. Would you do that?
If, from what you say, that's a brother, and from what I've confirmed, that's a direct cousin.
Yes, I mean,
this is the place that he goes. And
he goes there. We have our Christmas meetings there. Me, when I returned from the UK many years ago and I couldn't even afford to remove my things from the port, he paid everything for me. What do you understand? So we are brothers. I just want you to understand, this is not Kwancheng, Behi, what do you call it, brother? We are brothers. Okay. So mine is that you went in there with prior arrangement with Richard for one reason or the other, because probably you wanted to coerce him, whatever you wanted to do, nobody knows. I won't be able to impugn any ill motive. Believing that, because we all respect our big brother. Yeah. I mean, we respect him, and so the idea, per my understanding, the idea is that you thought that our big brother will be able to push Richard. But the truth is that when this conversation happened, brother, he's been very clear that he doesn't want to get involved in how this whole thing. So Richard comes to meet them. Fast forward, comes to meet them there. And then they sit and they discuss. And so at what point was this done to the extent that AG, after messing up, is trying to say that is the Supreme Court judge, Yoni Kulendi, my big brother Yoni Kulendi, who actually arranged. I mean, I can tell you, listen, if me and you are my brother, obviously I'm older than you are my brother, and I have an issue and I brought it to you, logically, and somebody is coming from somewhere to come and join us. Are you saying that the person will come? Then me that this is my home, I will now come and meet the outsider in my home. Is that what you are saying? So it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
That is quite revealing in terms of the relationship.
It does not make sense.
And getting into the head of Jakpa and knowing the background. So they want to bring in something.
Thank you for staying tuned. PENDREAM TV really appreciates your time. Please, if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please do so for us. Hit the notification bell, like and also share to other members to watch as well. Thank you.
PENDREAM TV. Now, so far so good. Say open online portal e Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.